Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate you and the ranking member holding this hearing. I think it's we always got to look out to the future and be inspired, and I think that's what we're trying to do here in a lot of ways. I appreciate the witnesses and all your expertise on this important issue. I wanted to ask about, the importance of U.S. FAA licensed spaceports to commercial space launches. In Alaska, we have the Pacific Spaceport Complex in Kodiak. Actually, just yesterday, you may have seen in the news, it conducted a THAAD missile test. It was very successful. And can you give me, from your perspective, what the benefits are from a commercial perspective of having these they go into really one of the topics of the hearing, which is really a public-private partnership approach, a little bit different from, say, the Kennedy Space Center. But just your thoughts on the importance of those kind of space complexes that we have, like, for example, in Kodiak?
Yeah, I can speak to that one. Thank you, Senator Sullivan. So as Dr. Jha pointed out before, there are different types of orbits, and there's kind of a Goldilocks zone that different markets fit into. So for us, especially being a small satellite launch company, and as OneWeb and SpaceX and these companies are making constellations, that having a launch site that is geography dependent to the technical requirements of the customer is very important. So in Alaska, at the Kodiak site you reference, you can reach what's called polar or sun-synchronous orbits.
And it's the only non-government-owned space complex that allows you to do that in the world, correct?
I'm not sure about the world, but in the United States, that is true. Yep. There is also a military missile range in Hawaii, Barking Sands, but they're doing more, missile testing.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so it's just very important that we look at markets and how they're changing and what needs customers have, because right now having a West Coast launch site that is accessible, other than Kodiak, it is a challenge.
Great, thank you. Any other thoughts on just those kind of commercial space complexes, space launch complexes, what they can do for our capability?
So it's a little bit different than the spaceport concept. I can speak to SpaceX's experience with launch sites. So we have 2 launch sites at Cape Canaveral and 1 launch site at Vandenberg Air Force Base, and then a private launch site under development in Texas. Our work at Vandenberg at Cape Canaveral has been critical, and we worked hand in glove at the Cape with Mr. Cabana's team to establish processes by which we can provide commercial launch, national security launch, and NASA launch as well. And in the absence of public-private partnerships, like the kind that enabled SpaceX to take on LC-39A, which is our newest launch site, former shuttle site, we would be inhibited from taking on the big manifest that we've acquired. Right now we have 70 launches on manifest. We took more than 50% of the global market last year for commercial satellite launch away from the French and the Russians. And in the absence of our commercial partnerships with NASA at both Kennedy and Vandenberg, we would not be able to service that manifest. So it's quite critical.
Great. Let me broaden the kind of topic here. Did any of you, any of the witnesses see the movie The Martian? So I took one of my daughters to see the movie The Martian, and I'm not a Hollywood movie critic or anything, but when you come out of a movie and your 8th grade daughter says, boy, I need to study math and science more because that looks like that could be a real interesting future. To me, that was pretty inspiring and pretty good movie. And what do you see we should be doing to try to inspire the next generation of Americans beyond movies like that can get them interested in what this whole hearing is about, which is kind of the future of space, where, in the NASA days and the Apollo space mission days, every young American was inspired. I think we've lost some of that, but we can regain it. You guys are the experts. What do you think, beyond just a good Hollywood movie, we can be doing to inspire the next generation of Americans to do more in math and science and, maybe be on Mars in a couple decades. Yeah, anyone?
Yeah, so thank you, Senator Sullivan. I think first and foremost, one of the things that you mentioned, Apollo and that sort of inspiration, those were days of what I would call real exploration, where we strapped on the idea of taking risk.
Yeah.
I think we've become very risk averse.
And why did we, after the shuttle accidents and things like
Yeah, so the thing is that taxpayers say, I want to know where my dollars are going. I want guaranteed success as much as possible. And when you start levying those requirements of it has to be successful or else, I mean, JPL had a couple of failures as well with Mars when I worked at JPL. And so when you levy that requirement, that really turns into doing the last thing that you did that worked. And that is not really pushing the boundary of exploration. And I think allowing NASA to go back to those days of you're in a risk retirement kind of mentality,
Yeah.
and some bad things are going to happen and some lives are likely to be lost. I think strapping on that idea of risk to get out there and explore, I think that's the thing that will inspire a next generation, is to see bold moves.
Yeah.
And not just argument upon argument and incremental kind of things, but just bold. We're going to do this and we're committed to it and it's just going to happen.
By the way, the chairman and I are very interested in missile defense, and we hear that a lot from our experts in the missile defense area, that the risk of failure really inhibits us from making significant advances. Anyone else on that question? I know.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, is that all right?
Take your time.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to add to that, sir. I think taking risk is important. I just want to take informed risk. I want to understand the risk that I'm taking and mitigate it as best as possible. Our visitor center at the Kennedy Space Center, it's totally run by, there are no appropriated dollars that run it. Last year, we set a record for the number of visitors that we had, 1.6 million, and we're on track to beat that this year. There is great interest in space, and I go over there on a regular basis, and I'll just walk up to kids and ask them, hey, how'd you enjoy your day? And it's the exact right mix of entertainment, but also learning.
Yeah.
And they are truly inspired when they see what's going on, when they see our history, but they also get a chance to see what our future is. And I think to continue to generate that interest in students today to pursue math and science, we need to continue on the path we're on. We have to continue having launches at the Cape. I don't care what rocket it is or what's on it. Anytime a rocket ship leaves planet Earth, that is an inspiring experience, and people walk away from it motivated and enthused and wanting to be part of what we're doing. I think we're on the right track. We just need to follow through, continue to build on what we've done, continue to have commercial launches, to have an exploration program for NASA to go beyond planet Earth, to work in partnership with our commercial companies to make that happen. I think we're doing all the right things, and we just got to press ahead. And I want to I read the book. The book's a lot better than the movie, but I saw the movie too. I want to make The Martian happen for real.
Yeah.
Everything except that part for the storm.
Right, we don't want to leave
I don't want to
Matt
leave anybody
Damon
behind. But
on Mars.
that,
Do you have someone in mind you want to leave there?
No, but I volunteer to go. I'm ready. I think we need to continue to pursue this bold path that we're on and continue to have the success that we're having, and that's going to continue to generate this interest in math and science.
Yeah, anyone else?
Yeah, if I may make two quick comments. First is on the risk aspect. One of the toughest things at NanoRacks was getting NASA and the space station program early on to recognize that failure was okay as long as it didn't hurt the safety of the crew. And they were just so focused that we had to build the customer's payload so it would work 100% of the time, but the customer didn't want to pay that cost. And maybe they get 70% of their results. As long as it didn't, and today we're at a point with the space station program where they understand failures on the private sector side. If I don't get the hardware to work, my customer doesn't pay me. And so we're reaching a very interesting balance with NASA now. On the education, let me say that one of the biggest surprises for NanoRacks when we started was our early customers were educational schools. And it's gotten to be such a huge program for us that we've created a new company, a public benefits company called Dream Up. And it's separate from us, and we've flown 4 or 5 schools in Texas and Houston. We've flown, I think it's something like 40 high schools. We've flown high schools in Israel, 160 congressional districts of schools with no NASA funding. And some of the parents have bake sales. They get together. They get local, the Subaru dealers gives them sponsorship. And so I can tell you that in the trenches out there, you know, in the small towns, the enthusiasm for space and education and research is huge. And that Dream Up is growing significantly, and it's wonderful, and there's no government funding.
Great. That's great to hear. Anyone else on that important topic?
Yeah, I can speak to it. So as CEO of Relativity, I'm humbled to speak on behalf of all venture-backed startups. And I can definitely tell you, if you're getting venture capital, you do not dream small. You dream big. And you take huge risks, and you're looking for outsized returns. So I think that setting an example, you know, myself being a 27-year-old co-founder of a space company that's now tested rocket engines at NASA Stennis Space Center, that I hope to be an inspiration for other people, and that members that join our team at Relativity and all of the other venture-backed startups are able to see that success and having more winners will actually inspire people to go make that reality happen themselves.
Great.
And I'll jump in as well. So SpaceX's goal, stated goal for years now, is to make humanity a multiplanetary species, a rather lofty goal. And it's one that we deeply believe in, and it drives almost every decision that we make within the company. And so I think setting big goals like that is critical. And the way that the government can help to encourage this through public-private partnerships are to set high-level requirements and not tell companies how to complete them, but rather establish the requirements, partner with the companies to get them done, and to get them done in a way that is rapid and efficient, safe and reliable. There are a number of opportunities, I think, that we've got out to the right here to complement our existing program to get to Mars that can rely upon commercial capabilities, set these big goals, let private capital work in conjunction with government money to achieve these goals and get it done in 4 to 8 years.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for holding this hearing. And yeah, I didn't get a response. Are you a fan of The Martian as well?
I am, although an even more important technological innovation. If any of you could develop a lightsaber, I think that would truly energize interest in space exploration.